Hello and welcome to A Dialogue With. My name is Charlie Adams. I'm Director of Customer Experience at Custom Connect. And today I'm having a dialogue with a well-known player in the BPO world, a founder and an investor, Sadiq Mohammed. Hi, Sadiq.
Hey Charlie, how you doing?
Doing awesome today. The sun is shining. What's not to love?
Exactly.
So I did a little bit of research on your background. So I can see on LinkedIn that you've had a very successful 25 years in contact center outsourcing. You support clients
Yeah.
across the globe, but you also have quite an impressive portfolio of startups that you've invested in. So to
Yes.
start with, to help myself and help the listeners, could you introduce yourself and give a bit of an overview of what it is you've done and what led you to where you are today?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to do that, Charlie. So yeah, my background isn't actually contact center outsourcing. My background is corporate finance, and that's how I started after university, working with HSBC and Lloyd's for 6 years, and I sort of fell into call center outsourcing, as it was known then, when I was offered a role by the chief executive of Experian. And you'll know who Experian are. They're a big data business, globally well known and well respected. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a number of large American banks coming over to the UK. Capital One being one, MBNA being another one. And whilst Experian was helping them with systems and data, they also needed call centers and customer service centers. And at that time, Experian was wholly owned before it listed, wholly owned by a company called Great Universal Shopping, Gus Home Stores, which was the catalog business up in the Northwest. And they had significant contact centers because that's the world of catalog retailing, and they had spare capacity, and they were leveraging some of the clients from Experian to sort of fill up that capacity. So Experian created a brand new business unit called Experian Business Support Services, which later turned into reality. And I joined that to head up the business development capability in that space, and that's how I got into call center outsourcing.
It is funny how you described you kind of like fell into it because the more people I speak to about their career in BPO outsourcing or contact centers, it's a lot of
Yeah.
falling into the role, which I think is
Yes.
changing over time at the moment. But we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go on. Sorry, Charlie.
So I was just going to ask. So when was it that you first started in that role then? Because I can't remember if you said was
Yeah.
that like 20 years ago? When was it that you fell into the
Yeah,
BPO
20.
world?
I fell into it in 1997, believe it or not. So that's 29 years ago. And I spent a couple of years with Experian, a couple of years with a company called Ventura up in Leeds. And then I spent 10 years with Vertex in Manchester. Vertex was a significant outsourcer, was a subsidiary of United Utilities, but they were really growing their BPO and the call center outsourcing division from 2002. And I was there till 2011. And we saw that grow significantly. We sold it to private equity. We all had golden handcuffs to stick around post the sale. And I eventually left after 10 years, which was a great experience, and in my opinion, still one of the best companies I've ever worked for. And I still have a lot of friends from that time, who have become lifelong friends. And then I joined a company called the Listening Company, which was a small 5,000 person business in the UK, mainly focused in telecoms at that time. And they wanted to focus in retail, and they wanted somebody who knew retail, and I knew retail. And within a year of joining that business, we'd sold that to Serco. And because Serco in 2011 were really ramping up their sort of global business support services division. And they were acquiring businesses like TLC, Intelenet Global Services, and crashing it all together. They also bought Vertex Public Sector Division and crashed it all together to create Serco Global Services. And that was fantastic. We did some significant deals. One of the largest deals that I was involved with was Shop Direct, which is, I think, a £450 million deal, 3,000 people, to be transferred and moved into geos like India, South Africa, etc. And other significant deals like JD Williams and Selfridges and Fortnum and Masons, etc. So had a wonderful time there, and decided in 2015 when Serco had decided to exit the market and were selling their subsidiaries, this business unit, I decided to, rather than to go with that, take redundancy and set up my own company in 2016, which was USmart. So I set that up just over 10 years ago. And I realized that, irrespective of whatever badge I was wearing at that time, and I'd been to a couple of BPOs, the clients really trusted me to make the recommendations. And if I told the clients through the consultative process that I went through with them that this particular BPO that I was working for was a great BPO, they would generally trust me with that advice and guidance. And I then realized that, I didn't have to have one badge on anymore. I could represent a number of BPO partners that where I had conducted my own due diligence, and I knew that they were a good partner, that they could deliver, they treated their people well, they were looking at technology in the right way, and that's how I started building up the USmart proposition.
What a great career! You've worked for some amazing companies,
Yeah.
and yeah, no, it's great to understand. I think one of my key question then is, with all that experience, what is it that you've seen change in the BPO industry? How has it evolved? Is there anything that you think has changed a lot, and vice versa? Is there anything that hasn't changed at all? It's exactly how it was when you started out.
It is interesting. I've been in this game for nearly 30 years now, and whilst we used to call it call center, we now call it contact center industry.
Yeah.
That's the channels that we now operate in are far and wide. Every new channel that came along was going to kill another channel. It never has. All it's just done is increased volume, for the contact center.
Yeah.
Customers have got more informed with the advent of internet and all that sort of stuff. Customers are much more informed about what they want. Self-serve has really taken off. I've seen that sort of, really grow. And most recently, obviously, the use of AI. And again, we'll talk about that later, no doubt. But technology, and it's interesting that I've seen so many different technology platforms come and go over the last 25 years that we're going to kill the call center and there's going to be no more call center left. And lo and behold, the industry's still here. It's still employing millions of people. There more and more geos are now coming up. Geographies are coming up saying that they can deliver BPO. I don't think this industry is going away. I think it's going to evolve, and people will have to evolve with it. The BPOs are going to have to evolve as well in how they hire, how they train, how they retain, and what standards that they can now deliver to.
I know you said we'll probably touch on AI later, but as you've mentioned it already, so literally minutes into the call, I'm going to ask a question on AI because it is an important one, actually, what you're covering, because AI is reshaping, I guess, the BPO and contact center world. But how do you see it changing the BPO landscape? Is it going to change much in terms of how we operate in outsourcing over the next 3 to 5 years, say, or maybe even 10 years ahead?
Yeah. So the way I see AI being deployed, it's not going to get rid of the call center or the contact center. That's just not going to happen. And the reason being, because human beings want to talk to somebody, especially when there's an emotive topic or a complicated topic that they want to discuss. If you've been declined for a credit card or declined for a mortgage, or you're having fraud on your account or something like that, then you want to talk to a human being because that's just a very emotive topic. If you want to know where your next pair of trainers are and why they haven't arrived on time, AI can fix, can tell you exactly where it is, and et cetera, et cetera. So, the world is definitely changing, and human behavior is changing of what they will accept from AI service, or agentic AI, as people are now calling it, and human behavior is also becoming is also stating we will not accept this level of service from via AI. We want it via a human being. So I see that that change coming. I also see there's a lot of hype around the use of AI, but what I'm seeing more and more, there are some real low hanging fruits now. I think that a lot of BPOs and a lot of customers can use to deflect and to take away volume. There's a lot of technology out there that can be used as bolt-on to do 100% QA, sentiment analysis, and all that sort of good stuff. There's a lot of technology out there that can make the glide path for an agent quicker, because they can do learning a lot more quickly. So there is all of that AI style technology that is coming in, and I've seen a fair chunk of it being deployed, that I think is for the good, and it will do good for the agents who are coming in and are coming under pressure, for the BPOs that have to deliver some value, and for the clients and their customers who expect a better grade of service if and when they choose to outsource.
I completely agree. AI, where it's used well to empower agents and improve journeys rather than just forced in for the sake of it, it's doing amazing things. So with all that technology, with all the different ways of people working now, are we seeing a more strategic partnership options coming in, or is it still just about cost when it comes to clients? Are clients still saying, I want an outsourcer to save money? Or are they talking about partnerships? Are they talking about trust and cooperation?
Okay. So I think it's a basket of those. The CFO always looks at cost, because that's just what CFOs do. And more of the geographies that are coming into play where there's a good tone of voice are, South America, the African geos are definitely coming into play, especially for the UK market. The traditional ones, India, Philippines, are still there and are still very strong. But all of those geographies I've just mentioned offer a financial benefit to the UK client who's outsourcing. So that becomes a sort of an automatic benefit that they get anyway. Where it's going, I think, is definitely much more about actionable insight, being able to provide some intelligence, and not just saying, well, here are your traditional KPIs. Everything is green. Isn't life wonderful? No. Clients want you to help them evolve their business. They want you to give them, because the contact center and the BPO is at the sharp end of all customer interactions. If the clients did everything well in their business, there wouldn't be a need for a contact center. Okay. And so that means there are things in their business that are not right. That's why they have a call center or a contact center. Okay. Which means then you as a BPO are dealing with queries where things have gone wrong. Something has gone wrong upstream, for that consumer to contact you. So it's up to you as the BPO and as the operator to tell and inform the client through actionable insight where their processes are going wrong, or where their policies are incorrect, or where they've got breakage in their policies or their macros, et cetera, et cetera. And you might be doing yourself out of volume, but that is what true partnership really looks like. True partnership looks like not focusing on how many more people can I have sat there answering those queries. It looks like, how do I get better first call resolution? How do I get better Trustpilot scores? How do I get a better customer sentiment? How do I get better employee engagement within my operation that's servicing this particular client? That's what true partnership looks like. Some of those things are easy to measure, and some of those things are harder to measure, and it's much more of a gut feel. And you see it, and I see that more and more. And there are some BPOs that are doing that really, really well. And then there are other BPOs who are still focused on what's my cost per hour. I'll just get it to the lowest price, and you know what, Mr. Customer, I'll just give it to you for the cheapest price because that's what you want. No, sometimes, and it's really interesting. I've just received 4 responses for a bid that we are doing, and the price variation is quite a lot considering the scope is very straightforward.
Right.
And we're looking at it and thinking, how can you do it for that level of price? How can you really deliver any value at all when you're a solo? On the flip side, we've got to make sure that the customer isn't overpaying, a premium for, good service. So it's really interesting when, as an independent broker, consultant, matchmaker, call me what you like, I don't care. When you see the bids and then you think, how the heck, you've all had the same information. How are you so far off? You're you're so far away from the pack. What have you seen that you're like 30% cheaper, which is just, crazy. And that none of the other BPOs and the bidders saw, but you saw it. And then that calls into the credibility aspect. How can you really deliver any value at all at that price point? You can't.
Completely agree. I guess on that, have you ever advised a client not to go with outsourcing at all? No, not particular one, but say if someone comes to you and says, we want to do outsourcing, have you got to a point where you've actually said, no, you don't, it's not for you?
So the biggest challenge I have with clients is I always say to them, don't outsource your mess for less.
Okay. On a t-shirt. I like it.
Yeah. And I say to clients, you have to invest in this. And if you don't invest in this, it will fail. And there are clients I have who really invest in the relationship by sending people to that particular BPO and helping them get up the glide path and really making them feel part of an extended part of the client's business.
Yeah.
And there are some clients, who, no matter how much you try, just like, look, no, we're quite happy with a arm's length style relationship. We know the KPIs we want, we know the SLAs that we want, and as long as they're adhering to those, we're quite happy. And that relationship always feels, in my opinion, strained and never like a true partnership.
Yeah.
Whereby the client that has invested, because they're getting a commercial benefit anyway, so the reality is invest in advance. Invest for the future, which is when you do set up an outsourcing operation, make sure you put in place all the right people to help that BPO that you've spent time choosing and using a person like me, a company like mine to help you find. Make sure you then, you invest. And that first 6 to 12 months, in my opinion, is the most critical period. That's the honeymoon period. That's when you have the bumps. That's when things get lost in translation. That's when people are not sure, have they made the right decision? They get buyer's remorse and all that sort of stuff happens. And we stay with the projects. So one of the unique things about USmart is we don't just help you find the right partner, we actually stay with you. And you'll have seen a post recently where we said there's no such thing as a 7-year itch. And that was because we've been with this particular client and BPO for 7 years. And we still attend the MBRs and we still attend the QBRs because the client's business has evolved. It's not the business that we started out with. The BPO has evolved, the client has evolved, and we've been there in the middle of all of that evolvement as well, and making sure that their new requirements are understood clearly and that the BPO can deliver them. And the client is also not being unreasonable in their requests as well.
No, that's a great way of working. I guess both parties have to be fully invested, don't they? Right from the start. There's no point being one way or the other. And you know it. Having been on the side of, on both sides, you kind of feel when it's not working and it's not working as a partnership. And when it does work well, it's amazing. And that's when, you're 7+ years down the line and it's still going well because you never lose that connection.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, nearly running out of time. So I guess I want to touch very quickly on location. Because the whole point of BPO, when everyone talks about it, it's offshore, onshore, it's contact centers all around the world. So in your view, when you're looking across regions, you've got Europe, South Africa, Latin America, Asia,
Mm.
across the whole world, apart
Hmm.
from cost, what is it that differentiates each region to be used for BPO? Is there key differentiators? Are there just some industries that are best suited in one region than the other, or is that something that used to be in place and now isn't anymore?
I think that used to be in place, but I don't think it is anymore. So one of the big things that I look for when I'm looking at geographies, and I service the UK market more than the US market. So my focus is the UK market, is cultural alignment with that particular, with the UK. Um, the UK being such a small island, it has many nuances. The tone of voice which in 30 miles can change massively. And I say that from Liverpool to Manchester, okay, to Leeds. That's 50 miles and you get three very different tones of voice. Sometimes you wonder if they're actually speaking English. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but it's more about the cultural alignment from the BPO and their people to that country and to those clients who are going to be going through are going to have some emotive inquiries, and they're going to want some empathetic people to deal with them through either chat, through email, through voice, however you do it. There's got to be that sort of the right tone of voice. So when I'm looking at geographies, the first thing I look at is how aligned are they to the country where I have clients,
Mm-hmm.
and will they understand the difference between a Scouse accent and a Manc accent and a Yorkshire accent?
I can't.
And will they understand? Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's they are 50 miles apart, but
Yeah.
there are some significant differences, and unless you know the UK and you understand it, and that comes through cultural affiliation, through sport, through like rugby or football or
Mm-hmm.
cricket, or just watching English TV. Gone are the days when you have to teach people what Coronation Street is anymore, or
Yeah.
EastEnders are. Yeah, if you have to, then you're in the wrong geography.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, then you're in the wrong geography. But the point I'm saying is, there has to be some alignment, cultural alignment between the geography and the geography that it's servicing as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, because I live on the south coast of England, and to me, anyone
Yeah,
north of Salisbury has a different accent. So it just
there you go.
changes
There
so
you go.
much.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Okay.
you're always on the road. I see on LinkedIn all the time that you're snapping photos in all sorts of countries. And
Yeah.
I guess my question's a personal one. How do you find the balance? How do you find that harmony in life when you're always out and about and traveling?
I I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed that I have a beautiful wife of 30 years. So she's the one who really should get the medal than me. And we have three beautiful daughters, and one of them works with me. So I'm very lucky that I speak to her on a regular basis. And the other two, one lives with us in Dubai and the other one lives in the UK. I have to go back to the UK on a regular basis every
Yeah.
month. So that's fine. But more importantly, when I do take time out, I take time out. But when you're also running a business with various time zones, it can be challenging. But the secret is trying to find time out. And because of where I live, I have the ability to take time out in the mornings, because my world doesn't start till 1 o'clock local time here,
Right.
which means then I have the whole morning to go and spend time with my wife, my daughters, play some golf
Mm.
before I start my day. So that's great, Yeah. So that's what I tend to do, is and then try and switch off at weekends if I can.
No, that's great. No, it is a good balance.
Yeah,
And I ask
yeah,
it because it's hard to do in any walk of life, in any business. But when you're on the road,
yeah,
especially with a family, it can be tricky. Sounds like you've got a great
yeah,
balance.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No. So far, so good. I could always do less. But when you run your own business, I don't consider it a job. I do not consider this a job. I'm very passionate about it. I've got some really wonderful people that work for me. I've got two individuals now that work with me that are really bringing a very different perspective to my world. So they now bring, client side experience, having been on the client side. One's been on the client side for 20 years, the other one's been on the client side for about 25 years. Mm-hmm. So they bring some real credibility and client side experience to our proposition, which means then I don't have to do as much of that because they're doing it and they're engaging with clients who really love them because they're like, you understand what I'm thinking about and what my fears are in outsourcing, in considering outsourcing. And you've got two individuals who can really talk to them and say, look, I've been where you are. I've done it for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What a great way to close. 'Cause I'm afraid it is time to wrap up the conversation. Yeah. I do feel like we've literally touched on the surface of what we could talk about. So thank you very much. It has been a really great conversation, very enlightening, really good to learn a bit more about your background. Thank you for your time, Sadiq. Take care of yourself, and thank you for everyone that's joined us today.
Thank you, Charlie. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself.